Good evening and welcome to the Town of Dudley Candidates Night. We've got an election coming up on June 12th. We've got a great crowd here on our municipal complex third floor, and I am very excited to be able to engage with our candidates tonight. My name is Chris Starcheski. I am the town moderator here in Dudley. I'm also up for re-election for my third bid in the role. I look forward to the support of the Dudley voters on June 12th as you look to make some serious decisions related to the town of Dudley and our future. Tonight we've got several candidates with us from the ballot who are running for our school committee seat that's open. We are also going to hear from members of the Board of Health candidacy as well as our Board of Selectmen. Going over some format and rules for tonight so everybody's aware and familiar. We will introduce the candidates up at the front. We will begin with our school committee members in just a couple of moments. That'll be followed by our Board of Health candidates, we'll close out with our Board of Selectmen candidates. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves to our audience here and at home. We will go ahead and ask all candidates the same 3 questions, where each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. After we've done our prepared questions, we will permit those in the audience to ask questions of the candidates as a group. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to the public questions. And then following my decision to close public questions, we will go ahead and have a 3-minute summary wrap-up from each of our candidates up front. The rules for tonight: the order of addressing questions by each candidate will be in random order. I did take the liberty of using a random number generator and laid out the order in which questions will be answered from our candidates, and we will go ahead and look to have those answers shared in a professional manner. Due to the format, this event could run for a couple of hours, angling for a little bit shorter than that for those of you who are here in the audience with other commitments, but we'll take the time necessary to make sure we get everyone aware. We ask that audience members here in this room, if you do need to exit as the candidates are answering questions, if you could just do so by the far back doors so as not to disrupt the response times. Negative or derogatory comments to the candidates by any of the participants in the audience will not be tolerated. We act with civility and respect here, and I will address you as the moderator with a warning. We won't need to go there, I'm sure. Any continued actions by individuals will be asked to leave, and this applies to the audience and to all candidates. All known candidates have received notice and an invitation to appear here at Candidates Night. We've had several who were able to attend, and those could not attend. That's okay, we understand. It's a very busy time of the year. The candidates in attendance, however, if you are here running opposed on the ballot and you are here alone, you'll still be permitted full time to address your opening remarks, your questions, and your closing remarks. So full time allowed there. During the public question forum, all public questions shall be posed to all candidates for the office. Therefore, the questions shall not be specifically directed towards a particular candidate unless there is only one candidate in attendance. All public questions will be repeated by me as best I can to ensure that I have captured the essence of the question. It's as my discretion as to whether or not a topic has already been covered or a question asked and answered. Those in the audience, please maintain appropriate decorum. Hecklers and those with cheers or jeers, please save those for the voting booth. Okay. We look forward to having a great evening tonight. As I mentioned, if you missed my name, I'm Chris Starcheski. I am town moderator, and I am up for re-election. If anybody would like to assume the seat, please feel free to submit papers in 2 years. I do enjoy doing what I do, but I'm running unopposed for the 3rd time, so it'd be okay. Without further ado, I'd love to welcome our school committee candidates up to the front. We've got Ms. Jamie Publico, Ms. Maureen Chickering, and we do have a write-in candidate, Mr. Jared Manzi, who I believe is in the audience. Ms. Chickering, hello. Ms. Publico, and Mr. Manzi.
Oh.
All right, as I stated in the format, we'll go ahead and have a 3-minute introductory opportunity. You don't have to use all of the allotted time, but Olivia is here in the front row. She has some cue cards for us for timing. You'll see the 3 for 3 minutes remaining, a 2 for 2 minutes remaining, a 1 for 1 minute remaining, and an L for last thought. When I see the L, I'll let you go ahead and finish your next natural sentence and then try not to rudely interrupt. Okay? So we'll go ahead and start to my right, Ms. Maureen Chickering. If you could take the 3 minutes max time to introduce yourself to our audience and the voters.
Okay, my name is Maureen Chickering. I'm a lifelong resident of Dudley. I understand how important our schools have been in making Dudley an attractive place for families to live. One of the reasons I'm running is to ensure that students have access to great educational opportunities, extracurricular offerings, and support services that has made our district great for so many. I currently have 4 grandchildren in the school system, so this is very important to me. If elected to serve, I will work closely with members of our community to ensure every student, teacher, and family needs are met. I also recently, last year, I joined the Zoning Board of Appeals as a volunteer. When my children were in school, I used to be a lunch lady, which is a lot of fun. And I have experience dealing with a lot of different people. I work at Christopher Heights in activities, and I have to manage groups of people that have different ideas, and we're even taught de-escalation techniques because sometimes people get out of hand. So I have a lot of people experience. I work well with others, and I'm a quick learner. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chickering, and welcome to the forum this evening. Second up, Ms. Jamie Publico.
Well, I'm Jamie Publico. I grew up here. I've lived in the Dudley-Webster area my entire life. I moved from Webster back into Dudley when my soon-to-be 9th grader went into kindergarten. My grandfather built literally most of the homes in this town, so, you know, I care about it. I want it to thrive, so I'm definitely one of the many that would like to be productive in restoring our entire district. I have some finance experience in terms of, you know, I've worked in HR for marketing companies, small business owner at one point, managed many. But I have been a local hairstylist in Dudley for 11 years, 23 total in the area, so I've gained a lot of relationships with a lot of the community already. I've had a lot of chats with a lot of the community, and I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and see if I can help restore what needs to be restored. That's it.
All right,
Am I
thank
supposed
you
to do
very
the L?
Thank you very much. Mr. Jared Manzi.
All right, good evening. My name is Jared Manzi. I live at 166 Corbin Road in Dudley for the last 12 years. I'm a veteran of the United States military, a husband to my beautiful wife Stephanie, but more importantly, I am a father to my 2 amazing children, Anthony and Giada. I am a union member of Local 1044 Glazers out of Boston and a Little League coach for my son's baseball team here in Dudley for the last 2 years. If you were to ask me when I was 18 if I'd be running for a local election in my town, I would tell you I'd rather be the president. But even the president had to start somewhere. I am running this write-in campaign for school committee, not as a stepping stone to become president, but as a father deeply concerned about the future of his children and the future of all children. After all, our children are the future. They will one day pay our pensions. Oh, I'm sorry. Jeez. Where is it? Okay. They will one day pay our pensions, run our towns, run our schools, and even run our country. So as parents, teachers, principals, coaches, and school committee members, it is our responsibility to ensure that all students receive a fair and balanced educational experience. As a member of the school committee, I will be the voice for students, teachers, and parents by providing transparency, integrity, and accountability without bias. I am running to serve the constituents of this town who may or may not vote for me. As you all know, the last 3 years, we navigated our children through a gauntlet of adversity. With the pandemic, social distancing, contact tracing, remote learning, mask wearing, and vaccinations, as parents, we were forced to make decisions for the safety and mental health of our children that some may not have agreed with. But that's why my children are my responsibility and your children are your responsibility. And in no way, shape, or form should an elected official step in the way of that responsibility. But as most of you know, the last 3 years proved that politics have no place in home life. I attended school committee meetings with other concerned parents and watched as our parental rights were taken away by a superintendent and a school committee peddling their own agenda and blatantly disregarding the voices of the student population and their parents, ultimately making decisions that would change our schools forever. But now we have a chance to restore some normalcy. I'm here today with the sole purpose of serving the students and the parents of this community. I'm not a politician. I do not have an agenda. Yes, this is an elected position, and yes, there will be things I don't agree with, but I will listen. Not only will I listen, but I will make decisions based on factual information, and I will always consult teachers, students, and their parents before rendering a decision. The actions of a school committee can change the outcome of our children's future. And as a father of 2 children in this school system, I want that outcome to be the best it can be for them and the entire student population. That's why I'm asking for your vote on June 12th to write in Jared Manzi for Dudley District School Committee. I appreciate all of you that took the time tonight to come here with the intent to invest in your children's future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manzi. Thank you, Ms. Publico and Ms. Chickering. We will head into our prepared questions at this point, and just those of you who are timing the response, I did give Mr. Manzi some extended time for the middle. No pressure. I just wanted to explain why the L went up and I didn't cut you off. That's okay. Question number 1 is for all 3 candidates. The order for question 1 is, of course, on the sticky note I covered up. I'm sorry. We're going to begin with Ms. Publico. And the question is, and I'll repeat the question for each candidate, what are the 3 primary goals that you wish to accomplish during your term as member of the Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee, and how do you intend to accomplish them? 2 minutes to respond.
My main primary goal, honestly, and I think anybody that's ever seen any of the meetings and any of the things that I've been involved in, is to make sure that the Department of Education cannot change our sex ed curriculum, and that's huge for me. I know it's not something that a lot of people have had on their radar because of the budget issues, which are huge and definitely next on my list, but that is huge for me. I think that in the past we've had issues where the school committee did not want to stand up to the powers that be, and I don't think that that's right. We don't do what we're saying just because we're told if it's not the right thing. And it's been proven even by the Department of Pediatrics that that's not the right curriculum to go with. I actually have a lot of that information posted on my Facebook page, Jamie Publico at DCRSD. I'm sorry, Jamie Publico for DCRSD School Committee, if you want to look at the links. Next would be to just try to help with the budget. I'm not as experienced maybe as some of the people. I've heard a lot of great responses from the community in terms of suggestions for the budget and ways to go about not asking for such a high ask of the community. I think there were a lot of things that could have been done differently, so my next goal would be to really try to roll up my sleeves with the committee now and see if there's any input that I can give to help that. My main goal is to restore the district. That's curriculum, budget, and to make sure that there's people that are sitting on the committee that will stand up no matter who's standing up with them. Again, I think that was a problem in the past, and one of my biggest issues was that nobody was willing to say the necessary things.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Ms. Chickering, what are the 3 primary goals that you wish to accomplish during your term as member of the Dudley Charlton Regional School District, and how do you intend to accomplish them?
Well, one of my goals would be to try to attract staff, good staff. We already have plenty of good staff, but if we should need to, and maintain a good relationship with the teachers and the students, and the first priority is students. To do whatever we can to make sure they have what they need in the schools, for the budget, as much as we can do. Secondly, I would try to make sure that we don't, how I would do that, I don't know, but the meetings they had where everything got out of hand was concerning to me. I attended a few of them, and it seems like there should be something we could do to make sure people don't get that way again. And the finances, well, we have to work within what we have, so I would work with the other school committee members to see what we could do to make sure everybody gets what they need.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Manzi, what are the 3 primary goals that you wish to accomplish during your term as member of the Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee, and how do you intend to accomplish them?
Number 1 is to give the power back to the parents, the power of choice for their children. That includes stopping the indoctrination of children, and I'm going to agree with Ms. Poblocki on the changing the sex ed format. Some of these kids are just too young to even be talking about some of the topics that have been brought up. With the last principal at the high school, I don't want to go into detail, but I'm sure we're all aware of the things that were going on there with the former principal at Shepherd Hill. Also, the budget's huge. Right now they're talking about getting rid of some sports, music. I know the school needs to be repaired, remodeled. I just don't think that we're going about it the right way as a community, or I wouldn't say as a community, as a school committee now. I think we're asking too much during a time where people are strapped for cash, and we're looking to reach into people's pockets where money just isn't there to help keep some of these programs afloat inside the school. So I think we have to find other ways to get that money, either it's through government funding, grants, anything that we can do without taking the money away from the parents of these children in the school that desperately need to keep that money to provide for their family. And thirdly, I would say I would have to talk about the turnover. I sat at a school committee meeting where they announced more than 15 teachers, new teachers coming aboard due to the pandemic. Teachers were quitting, left and right, and I think we need to look deeper into that as to how we keep good teachers on board instead of, letting them walk away after years of experience and bringing in new teachers with no experience. And then we've got bullying, and that's a huge problem as well. So.
All right, thank you. Second question is with respect to the role of the Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee. Mr. Manzi, you have first crack. What is the primary role of the Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee, and what background do you bring to that role? And if you could explain your answer in those 2 minutes.
So I think the Dudley School Committee, or any school committee, their number 1 role is to work with the administration and the parents. And ultimately, all the decisions made need to come from both the school committee and the parents through, from the administration, parents through the school committee, not just the school committee making decisions without the parents' consent. That's a huge responsibility, and I think that's been a huge failure the last 3 years in this town. The school committee had a chance to rise to the occasion, and they failed miserably during the pandemic. They peddled their own agenda. I don't know if they had any vested interest in the children. I don't know if they had children in the school. But I think as a parent with children in the school, it's important that you have that vested interest. That way you're not blinded by politics and decisions that, should be made through the administration and the parents. It should be passed on to the teachers. And the students should have a say as well. And I firmly believe that that's the primary role, is to support teachers and the students of the town.
Excellent, thank you. Ms. Publico, the role of the Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee. What is the primary role of the Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee, and what background do you bring to that role? And please explain.
Well, I know the role of the school committee ultimately is to oversee budget, policy, and superintendent. I also believe, unlike most, that there's things that are within the purview of the school committee that sometimes they stand a little back from. I do get that there's a level in which you have to go through. You have to go through the school itself and go through the principals and go through the superintendent before you even get to the school committee. But again, like I said in the past, there's been such a lack in what the school committee will actually stand up and do outside of those three things. I believe that along with those things, I agree with Mr. Manzi on everything he's saying. We need to make sure that the parents are involved, that the parents' choices are first. We're not co-parenting with government or elected officials. And that's one of the places I think the school committee needs to step in more. We have things being passed in the government that are going to take away educators' ability to even make decisions for their own students. Those decisions shouldn't be up to politicians. How a teacher teaches shouldn't be up to politicians. How they do what they do in their classroom is not up to somebody in the government. And they are working towards taking that power away. So that's one thing I think the school committee needs to understand, that they need to be that barrier to block that from our children. I have kids in the school district. One's going into 9th grade, one's just starting kindergarten this year. So I want to be one of those people that will stand up, and I will be, whether I'm on the committee or I'm not. I'll be one of those parents in the audience if that's the case. But I think that's a major thing that the school committee has to put in their purview.
Ms. Chickering, what is the primary role of the Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee, and what background do you bring to that role? And if you could, please explain.
One of their jobs is to hire, fire, and evaluate the superintendent. They adopt and oversee the budget, monitor it. They amend, create policy locally, not day-to-day, and contract negotiation with the teacher union, the superintendent, and the paraprofessionals and nurses. I think what I bring most is a lot of common sense and being able to work with others and listen to them and not get out of my lane.
Thank you very much. Our next question is actually going to start out with Ms. Chickering. It's related to our override vote. Some have said that the override question on April 25th and now modified questions on the June 12th, 2023 ballot are simply scare tactics, and that the town has the money. Are there scare tactics, and does the town in fact have the money? If the override fails, will students and parents see any difference? Ms. Chickering?
I have heard those comments made, and I've read them online. I would hope it would be beneath the town to use scare tactics. I don't know enough about, I've read through all the things, it's a little confusing. Whether or not we do have the money without the override, I would say probably not. I'm not a fan of raising taxes. I pay quite a bit already. But we've got to keep our schools up. There's nothing else we can do.
If you'd like, you have remaining time to fully address the final part of the question. If the override fails, will students and parents see any difference?
Okay, forgot that part. I would imagine there'll be a big difference if it fails.
Thank you. Mr. Manzi, some have said that the override question on the April 25th and now modified questions on the June 12th, 2023 ballot are simply scare tactics and that the town has the money. Are they scare tactics, and does the town in fact have the money? And if the override fails, will students and parents see any difference?
I've also heard the same, that they're going to eliminate programs in these schools to help pay for the override if it fails, or if we decide to go with it. Our taxes will increase. I think the number was 21%, 21.8%. It was originally 33%, which was an astronomical number. And, you know, like I said earlier, we're in the middle of an economic, meltdown, and every penny counts. So raising taxes at this time to help pay for, something that's probably not necessary right now. I know one of those questions is to survey whether the school needs to be remodeled. And there's also a question, we need money to put a new roof on the high school. I believe that if you're going to remodel, you don't need to do both. Either you do one or the other. But I would also, like to see, if we are going to raise taxes, and I'd like to see a full-time police officer hired for every school, Monday through Friday. That's something I'd be willing to pay for. But I can't see wasting money on something that may or may not get done. And I do believe that if it doesn't pass, I think the town is ready to take away some programs, which I don't agree with either. But you can't get blood from a stone. So if people are going to vote the way they want to vote, if they don't have the money, you're not going to get a yes. That's just how it is. Right now it's a tough time, and unfortunately the kids are going to suffer if the vote doesn't pass, which I don't agree with. I don't think that this should have even been presented during this current time. So that's you're going to get a no from me on that as well.
Thank you. Just for a point of clarity, I'm going to try and stay out of this, but the mention was about the feasibility study and the high school, and I believe you mentioned the roof at the high school needs to be replaced. It's actually the roof at the Dudley Middle School that was voted to be done, and we have to figure out how to pay for that. It's a separate project. I just wanted to clarify that one piece. There's a lot of moving parts here. I get it. For Ms. Publico, some have said that the override question on April 25th and now the modified questions on the June 12th, 2023 ballot are simply scare tactics and that the town has the money. Are they scare tactics, and does the town in fact have the money? If the override fails, will students and parents see any difference?
I do think some are scare tactics. I mean, anybody can see that. Just something simple like highlighting in the newspaper our cybersecurity, but then threatening to cut it. Seems like a scare tactic. Look how great this is. You're gonna lose it. Scare tactic. Do I think they have the money? I think we need some. Do I think that this much of an ask is appropriate? No. I believe that because they were asking 33% and then without shaving anything off of their end, quickly dropped down to 18 or 21 or whatever it is. That tells me that they didn't need the 33. They just wanted to sit on that. So that being said, no, I don't think we need that much money. I think we need some. It's evident inflation has hit everybody from households to businesses. So I think an ask is appropriate. Do I think such a high ask is appropriate? No, I don't. I think that there are things that could, again, why are we paying an assistant superintendent when we're losing teachers? These are the questions that I ask. Why did we just hire for just under $500,000 2 new psychiatrists when you're gonna take away sports? When that's evident and known to everybody that that is best for children's mental health. So these are the things that I question. Like I said, I do think that we need something. I do think with inflation, we could raise a little bit and help the school, help the town. But I think everything's just being gone about in the wrong way, not taking suggestions from the community and things like that. That's what I've noticed. Do I think that the kids will see something if it's a no vote? I do. Do I think the kids should suffer? I don't. I do think that everything needs to be managed a bit better.
Thank you very much. Ms. Chickering, some have said that the override question on the April 25th and now modified questions on the June 12th, 2023 ballot are simply scare tactics and that the town has the money.
I
Are
already
they?
answered.
Oh, you already did
That was
this?
the first one.
Oh, my heavens.
Don't do that.
Well, there we go.
I thought I had a little,
Hey, Ms. Chickering, great job answering that question. I tell you, I can't read my own handwriting here. All right. Well, moving on. That did complete our prepared questions for the evening. We will go ahead and, again, if anybody wants to step in to be moderator, feel free to write yourself in on the ballot. We are going to go ahead and take public questions. What I would ask is that just raise your hand. I'll ask one individual to come up at a time. Come to the mic, clearly state your question. I will take a quick note to make sure that I write the question, and then we'll come up with an order to answer each of these questions. We will have a 90-second response time, so it's a little bit of a quick hit. And as a reminder to the audience members, I will try and eliminate repeat questions. Questions aren't to be directed towards any individual candidate, but they're to be directed towards the panel. Okay? So we did have a gentleman over here. Come on up, please.
Jerry Frank from Causeway Road in Dudley. So I was just wondering if you could address the issue of the state of Massachusetts has a roadmap, it's called the Roadmap 2030, to reach net zero by the year 2050, and I think 50% reduction in carbon emissions by the year 2030. The schools in Dudley are probably, I'm guessing, is probably the biggest polluter in town as far as, heating the buildings, things like that, heating and electricity and stuff like that. How are you going to address the issue of trying to reach the state level of the 2030 roadmap?
Great. Thank you very much for that question. We'll start out in the middle with Mr. Manzi.
That's a great question. I believe that we look at the emissions. The school is polluting the air, but we built a fire station a few years ago. We had $5 million left over, and instead of fixing the heating and fixing the roof and fixing the school, we elected to tear down a perfectly functioning fire station to put up a brand new one that doesn't even have full-time firefighters. I guess we're gonna have to use, the government, ask for grants. It's a government program, so if the town can't afford to fund it, as a school committee, you're gonna have to reach out further for federal funding to help get to that point, if that's where they want it. I don't see any other way. Can't keep raising taxes.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Publico, the question is related to the state of Massachusetts roadmap to reduce carbon emissions by 2030. How can the school committee look to achieve that goal?
I agree with Mr. Manzi. Looking at grants and different options from the state would be my first road I would take for that. I think that things could have maybe been managed a little better with the ESSER funds that were unexpected from COVID, I like to call it COVID ransom money. That could have been used. That was just under $4 million. I mean, we could have really used that for some of the big ticket items, like the heating, the cooling, roof, maybe, things like that. So since that's already off the table, I would start with grants.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Chickering, I got that right this time.
Yes, you did.
Okay, I'm just checking myself.
Okay.
This question is related to the state of Mass roadmap to reduce carbon emissions to zero by 2030. How can the school committee help achieve that goal and contribute?
Well, the only thing I can think of is in the budget, if we have to replace things, we have to do it with, like heating, cooling. Buses could be electric. I don't know that we have any say over that. And again, I agree that we probably don't have that sort of money, but somebody could, I heard we were getting a grant writer for the town, so perhaps somebody could look into the state funding, federal funding.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any additional audience members with questions? Yes, we'll go over to the right side. We'll definitely get over to Mr. Humphries.
Well, good. Richard Clark, Airport Road. First of all, let me thank you for putting yourselves forward. This is a process, I'm sure, that's a lot more demanding than you imagined when you started. In any event, it's my understanding that the superintendent was given serious consideration for a position across the river in Webster, and that the assistant superintendent apparently has his paper out on the street as well. I would ask if each of you could give us 3 thoughts in terms of what you would be looking for in terms of administrators going forward as these people take their careers somewhere else.
So we're going to begin with Ms. Chickering. The summary of the question is, what are 3 thoughts for administrative qualities for district leadership?
I would say dedication. I'm not sure what the qualifications are for that, since I've never been involved, but the school committee, I'm sure any other member that's gone through it before would have points that they look at when they're hiring somebody. I've never done it, so I'm not really sure what we want.
Thank you. Ms. Publico, qualities or traits, three qualities or traits for administrators for district leadership.
I don't know if this would be considered a quality or a trait, but I would certainly look into the background of previous districts that they've been in to see what the enrollment versus non-enrollment has been and the percentages that it's risen or declined. I would also look for somebody who's unbiased, considering we've had issues of bias in the past, even with just principals spewing like their political bias all over the place. Things like that we don't need. What would be the, I guess, dedication? I would agree with Mrs. Chickering. Dedication would be the next.
Thank you. Mr. Manzi, 3 traits for administrators in the district related to district leadership that you'd be looking for.
First, I would ask, I didn't know that the superintendent was trying to jump ship and go to Webster. It makes sense, though, during this time. You know, he's just going to bail on us in the middle of a fiasco. I get it, but 3 traits would be integrity, honor, and accountability. Somebody that's going to not jump ship when time gets tough. Somebody that's going to listen to people, listen to parents, listen to teachers, listen to students. And somebody that's going to hold everybody accountable underneath them. You know, the school committee is going to hold that new hire, that new superintendent accountable. We expect that superintendent to hold the staff, the faculty accountable. You know, obviously, I would look to interview somebody with an extensive background in teaching, not just somebody that's qualified, not somebody that went to college that has a doctorate degree. You know, if you've never taught before, you really know what the best interests of the students are. So those would be my 3 things.
Excellent. Thank you very much from all the members for that question. Mr. Humphries.
Colin Humphreys, Lakeside Drive. So a few of the candidates here tonight have mentioned that they believe that there is an extreme bias. These are 2 different terms been used, but indoctrination. There's been some concerns raised about sexual education in particular. My question is, because the elaboration has been kind of vague, my question is, do you believe that these things are present in our school district? And if so, what evidence do you have that this is happening in the Dudley-Charlton Regional School District? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Let me just double check my order. I'm so sorry. I fell behind on my notes. Ms. Chickering, do you believe that the issues that were presented, such as bias, indoctrination, and the sexual education issues, are existing in DCRSD, and what is the evidence of such?
I do not believe.
That was a quick response, thank you. Mr. Manzi, same question. Do you believe that the issues of bias, indoctrination, and issues with inappropriate sexual education are present in the DCRSD, and what is the evidence of such?
Absolutely, 100%. The former principal at Shepherd Hill, who's no longer with Shepherd Hill, posted a tweet on Twitter of a book in a library at the school. Pretty graphic book. I'm pretty sure anybody that saw that, you guys can remember. But that book was not about, Moby Dick or the whale. It was about transgender. It's almost ridiculous to even talk about the fact that it was presented and put on the internet. Also, my daughter just went and took a tour of the middle school. She's gonna be in 5th grade. All over the walls. She asked, "Dad, why is everything in that school say pride? It's okay to be a boy. It's okay to be a girl. It's okay to be transgender." Kids only know what we teach them. If we don't teach them certain things, they won't talk about it or discuss it. But when you force things on children, that's when they start talking about it. Kids only know what we tell them. Okay, that's why teachers are so important. That's why teachers need to have full reign of their classrooms without the government stepping in.
Thank you. Ms. Publico, do you believe that the challenges as presented, with bias, indoctrination, and sexual education challenges or inappropriate sexual education are present in the DCRSD, and what is the evidence of such?
As far as bias, yes. Anybody that watched any past school committee meetings over the past 3 years could see that the past school committee voted and made the decisions based on their personal political bias. It was evident because they went against 70% of the voting parents at the time that were involved in all of the things in the current events. That, absolutely. Do I believe that Dudley Charlton is adopting these curriculums? No, they have not yet. Have there been inappropriate books? Absolutely, they were found in the Shepherd Hill Library. The one that he was talking about actually, I believe, was genderqueer, and it was actually a graphic novel of porn. It wasn't even anything educational. There are many more that have not been taken out of that library yet. You can check them right online in the catalog or go in there and pull them out yourself. I will put a list on my site later if you'd like to see them all. As far as the curriculum, the state and the Department of Education are trying to push different CSE curriculums. Worcester has already adopted it. Brockton is adopting it. They're sexually graphic. They say age appropriate, which I put in quotes because who decides what's age appropriate? I don't need my 2nd or 3rd grader coming home with a gender unicorn that teaches against the biological facts. So no, Dudley Charlton is not adopting this yet, but Department of Education will soon make us choose between a few different curriculums that are pretty disgusting, if I want to be simple. And again, those are all on my Jamie Publico for DCRSD School Committee page.
Thank you very much to all 3 members of the committee. Are there any additional audience members who would wish to ask a question? Yes, we'll go to the back, my right. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Liz Mkhitaryan. I'm actually a resident of Webster, but I'm here because I care. I run a national organization called Stop Moms for Liberty. And tonight, your organization and your folks sitting here have just heard direct quotes from that organization that as of today has been labeled a hate group in the United States of America. So as you've had 2 candidates stating that they don't want political views brought into the situation in a public school system, you seem to have 2 candidates. So my question for Ms. Chickering is, would you take a pledge that you would actually serve your entire community and not just a segment of the community that is backed by the same rhetoric that I am hearing across the United States.
Well, thank you for the comment and the question, but we're not going to answer because it's directed at a specific candidate. So thank you. You
Oh,
can have a
sorry,
seat.
it was for Ms. Chickering.
Yeah, we're not allowed to address these questions.
Could I answer that, though?
No, we're going to move on.
In general, I would
Ms.
just, could I?
Carmignani? No, we're not addressing the question.
I'll address that online later if you like. Please private message me, because you're uneducated in this topic.
Ms. Carmignani?
100%.
We're going to refrain from the banter
Thanks.
back and forth. We're going to answer the questions that I permit.
I did.
Go ahead and address the questions that I present. I permitted the attention at the microphone. It is not going to happen again. I promise you that. But we aren't going to go back and forth here in this forum. Ms. Carmignani?
My name is Kathleen Carmignani. I'm a member of the school committee, and I'm a resident of Dudley. When I don't want to start any explosions, so when I talk about equity in this question, I am talking about in terms of race, socioeconomic equity. Okay. So how will you, as school committee member, ensure that we address equity within our schools so that all students have equitable access to courses and programs?
So the question is directly related to access to all programs in school. All students will have equal opportunity to succeed. We'll start with Mr. Manzi.
I mean, can you elaborate on
Sure.
on what
I mean
programs?
that a special education student or a student that is of lower economic status has as much opportunities to get into the honors level courses or to get into any clubs and activities just as anybody else does.
I don't think that is a problem in the school system. I believe, as far as I know, everybody has an equal opportunity to play sports, to get into a math club, to get into any club. You know, my children both participate in after-school programs. You know, never had any issues. No one's ever questioned whether they were able to do the programs. So as far as equity goes, I believe everybody should have a fair shake at everything. I didn't know that was a problem. That's kind of news to me if that's an ongoing issue, and it's obviously something that I would look into. But I haven't heard anything about that.
Ms. Chickering, with respect to equity and access for race, social, emotional status, disability, or special ability status, how do we ensure that all students have access?
Okay, question, do we have something in place already? Because I don't go to school. I would think to make sure if they want to join a club or something and they're low income, that fees are waived. As far as any, like math or anything like that, I don't see where there could be a problem to begin with.
So, thank you. Yeah, it's all about perspective and where we sit. Ms. Publico, with respect to equity for all students, regardless of demographic, and access to all types of programs, all types of courses, thoughts on how we accomplish?
I think, I agree. Everybody that walks through those doors should have equal opportunity, and like what was just said, to my knowledge, they do all have equal opportunity. One thing that I've noticed within the Dudley Charlton District, especially this year with the team my daughter is on for Dudley Middle, everybody's extremely wonderful in including all of the kids. I know that everything that I get back from the school, it'll say, hey, if even just the field trip to Canopy Lake, if you have an extra $5 to chip in for the kid that can't commit. I see that all the time, and I think that's a wonderful thing. So I think that's one thing that I would encourage to continue, because that is one thing I've noticed is really incredible about Dudley Charlton District and the luck we've had so far up to Dudley Middle. It's been wonderful, the amount that the teachers do give and make sure that there's no kid left behind. I think that's a wonderful thing. So I would continue to encourage that.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any additional questions from our audience? Yes. Our first arriver.
Hello, I'm Carmela D'Ambra on Lyons Road in Dudley, and I have a question about the books that seem to be so concerning. We have a policy in the district. If you don't like a book, parents can complain, and there's a whole system. And I'd like to know, what do you think of that system? And have any of you used it as parents for the books that you seem so concerned about?
So the question is, in essence, related to the use of the policy to question materials in the school libraries. We'll go ahead with Ms. Publico.
Yes, actually, it was myself and a group of other parents within the Dudley-Charlton district that raised the concern about those books, which is the reason that the school adopted the library committee, in order to make it possible for parents to address anything concerning in the libraries or in the district. So because of us actually bringing that to the attention, the books in the Shepherd Hill Library is actually why that committee was created. The problem that I have with it is I don't think there's a significant turnaround, because a lot of those inappropriate books are still in the library.
Have you already complained
We're not going
about-
back and forth. We're answering the
Yes,
question as it was
well, and
posed.
to continue on with the question, we have the way it's written, I think, just has to be reiterated. I think that it just has to be taken a little bit more seriously. And I just want to put out there as well that a lot of parents at the time when the stink was being raised about all these books were just saying, oh, this is just parents that want to ban books. And that's not the case. There is nothing should be banned, nothing, no matter what side of the fence it's on. I think kids should have an equal opportunity to see all of everything and make their decisions and think critically. But these types of books are sexually inappropriate for a 14, 15-year-old to go in and grab. Actually, this is the type of content that if we would have sent them into school with it, we would have gotten a phone call from the principal and most likely DCF. So yes, I've raised hell about it, and because of us doing that is why that committee was formed.
So the question is related to Ms. Chickering now. It's related to books in the library and the policy to reconsider display of the books or use of the books.
I actually read the whole thing. I didn't memorize it, but it sounded like the policy was very good and in-depth, and anybody can bring to their attention a book, and then they have several processes they go through to decide whether or not there's any reason to take the book out. I have no problem with it.
So, Mr. Manzi, related to the school library books and the policy to reconsider in that process, what are your thoughts on that system?
I think it all goes back to what the parents would like. If a parent doesn't want their child checking out a book in that nature, then that should be the policy. If that book's available for them to check out and they take the book home and the parents find it and they become upset, that creates a bigger problem. So, it's almost like, you have the internet in the library as well, right? So, there's certain things you can't look up on the internet. Try Googling that type of, what's the title of the book?
Genderqueer.
Try Google genderqueer on the internet and see what you come up with. You're probably going to violate the internet policy in the library right then and there. So again, it's got to be up to the parents whether or not they want their child viewing that book or reading that book.
Can I ask, is that book currently in our library?
We're not interrupting, and we're not engaging in any back and forth. You had your opportunity to ask a question. Please return to your seat. You can continue with your time.
So I think whatever policy they have in place, whatever they did to make sure that was, an effective policy where, parents, do have some sort of control over what their kids are viewing. I agree with that 100%.
All right, thank you. Additional questions from the audience? Yes, right here off center aisle.
Hi there, Monica Freund Kaufman, 59 Baker Pond Road. I've been hearing a lot tonight about control, about parental control, about not being controlled by the government, all kinds of control. And I'm concerned that for people whose values may not be similar, and we're not judging whether or not they are similar, but I would like to know for kids whose parents don't feel the same way that you do, what are you going to do on the board to honor them?
So if I can summarize, it's a question of political difference or political ideology. How do you maintain apolitical interpretations and represent all families in the DCRSD despite individual political perspectives.
Yes, and the control issue, thank you.
Thank you. We begin with Ms. Chickering.
I believe parents should have control of their kids at home. When we send them to school, there are already rules in place, there's programs in place, the state mandates what can be taught. I trust our teachers. My girls never had a problem in school. I don't understand. In fact, sometimes I wish they'd been a little tougher on them. So I would not bring anything to the table that was, about control or politics. It's all about the kids and their learning.
Thank you. Ms. Publico?
As far as any political bias, I believe no side should be all over the schools. It should be a place to critical think, a neutral zone. You learn one side and the other equally. I may think, by all of my due diligence with bills being passed and research, that yes, there is control being put in by the government that is displacing the family unit. You don't have to believe that. That's okay. My goal is to make sure that family values are still in place, to make sure that that parents still have freedom of choice. The government already tried to take that away by certain mandates. Nothing should ever be mandated. Parents should always have control. So it's not about my political bias. It's about me saying, whatever you want for your child, whatever I want for my child. We don't have to think eye to eye, but both our children should walk into this door in a neutral zone without anybody swaying them one direction or the other, without the government saying, you have to do this, you can't do this. We don't co-parent that way. Yes, there's rules in place when our kids walk through those doors, absolutely. The rules and policy have to be respected. But when it comes to the government saying, you have to we're gonna mandate this, you have to, take a COVID vaccine to be in school, or you have to, or the curriculum, for example, this bill that's being passed is gonna take the control even away from educators. They're not gonna be able to to have a say in what they teach. So it's not just parental control, it's all control that is dripping down, and we need to make sure that our local elected people, the school committee, selectmen, everybody is on alert for things like that, so that we can have a community where our values aren't chipped away at.
Thank you, Ms. Publico. Mr. Manzi, maintaining that apolitical perspective and representing all families' interests in the district.
So maybe the word control wasn't the right word to use, but as Ms. Chickering said, her girls didn't have any problem. I'm assuming your girls have been out of school a while?
A while.
All right, so.
Why would you say that?
We're not in that same time anymore. We're in a different time. We're in uncharted waters right now. We're all learning the new school system, and control is probably not a good word, but parents should have a say. They should have a say in what their children are being taught. And I got to tell you, I don't think I trust the teachers 100%, but I think there's teachers in our school that don't trust the curriculum that's coming down, and it's being force-fed to them to teach to kids. So I trust the teachers 100%, and that's why you saw a large amount of teachers resign, retire, and move on in the last 3 years, because they didn't like the curriculum. It's not teaching like it used to be. It's completely different. It's a whole new agenda, and honestly, I feel bad. I feel bad for my children that they have to deal with this, because normalcy was when Miss Chickering's kids were in school. When I was in school, that was normal. This is not normal.
Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to go ahead and call the public questions to a close. We've only got about 90 seconds remaining. Mr. Marcy? Yeah, we'll allow one last question. We will keep to a rigid 90-second response per to keep on par. We are about within 1 minute of that 30-minute allowance.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you all putting your names forward. I know it's very difficult to stand in front of a jury of your peers. I've done it many times. My question is, I'm a I'm a dad with a special needs child who requires a lot of resources from the school, and I appreciate all that the school and the system has done for my child and my son who's already graduated. What are your plans to ensure that the kids that need the most help, the least among us, have the help they need to be able to fit in with the rest of the kids and get the same opportunities as other kids? We have some financial issues going on in the town, as you well know, and I want to know what your plan is to ensure that those kids are taken care of. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Marcy. The question is a little bit different than one of our first questions, or one of our earlier questions related to equity and access for all students. This one is specific to funding in place to ensure that we've got all the resources needed to ensure everybody's got an inclusive opportunity and experience. Mr. Manzi?
I mean, I'm going to have to go back to, we'd have to take a hard look at the budget, first of all, with this upcoming vote for the Prop 2.5. You know, we don't have the money as it is. You know, if we're going to start cutting programs, I think the one thing we don't cut is the special needs program. We keep that stuff 100% because, you know, do I say that that's more important than playing sports? I'd have to say, yeah, in my mind, that would be more important than playing sports, but I don't want to sacrifice sports either. So I would, again, the government, the federal government, the state of Massachusetts has several programs. Maybe the town, the school committee can reach out, file, you know, some grants, you know, to ensure that that program is unaffected, and those special needs students are given the same opportunity as everybody else to graduate without parents having to fork over money out of their own pockets. I mean, they're probably already strapped for cash as it is. You know, they have a circumstance at home that requires more money than some of us have at our own homes. So, you know, to me, you know, keeping that program alive would be one of the things that we work on.
Thank you very much. Ms. Publico, related to funding to ensure all students have inclusive experiences.
As Mr. Mandy said, I think a hard look at a line-itemed budget would be the first way to go. Not that we haven't all been doing that already, but I think that we just put it on the list of things that just cannot be cut down, period. There's other expenses that could be cut to ensure that those types of things are not.
Thank you very much, Ms. Publico. Ms. Chickering, related to the funding to ensure inclusive practices.
Well, I would say during a school committee meeting on funding, we would make that a high priority.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mr. Moderator, can I make a comment, not ask a question? If there were
I'll
up for
permit the
time,
board
or-
of the chair of the Board of Selectmen to make a comment. Yes.
Okay. Jay Johnson, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. Just want everyone watching at home not to get nervous. There's currently 12 full-time firefighters providing life-saving service as first responders and paramedics. Thank you.
Thank you on that clarification to an earlier statement made in this forum. At this time, we're going to move into our closing remarks. We are going to go in reversed order from our introductory remarks. So we've got a maximum of 3 minutes to address our voters and constituents in town. Mr. Manzi?
Well, I'd like to touch on that real quick too. When the fire department was first built, there were not enough full-time firefighters on board. We built that fire station, and then we had to hire full-time firefighters after. But as far as school committee goes, as far as you know, my write-in position, I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I appreciate everybody asking questions. Like I said in my opening statement, there's things that you're not going to agree with. We're not going to agree on, and that's just life. That we're human beings. We don't all agree. If we all agreed on everything, we wouldn't be here right now having an election. My promise is to be transparent, to have integrity, to have accountability, and to the best of my ability, so my kids can, you know, go through this school system without any real issues, get to their graduation and move on and be productive in life. So, and I hope the same for the entire student body. And again, I appreciate everybody coming out here today, and thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Manzi, for closing out. Ms. Publico, 3 minutes to close out.
Well, I want to thank everybody for your questions and for coming tonight, first of all. I know a lot of the things that I value or don't value may not sit well with some of the people in this audience, and that's okay. Because like I said, my main goal is to make sure that it is a non-biased place for our kids to grow and learn with the best education possible, and to make sure that we as parents are able to choose what's right and what isn't right for our children without anybody getting in between that. I hope that at least everybody can agree on that. What's right for me not be right for you, and vice versa. And anybody getting in between us choosing what is right for our families is never a good thing. So that is one thing that I will stand by. If you don't agree with that, that's okay. But ultimately, you know, that's how it should be. A beautiful, amazing education from a wonderful district with amazing educators, which we do have. So that's what I want to see. That's what everybody wants to see. I think it goes without saying that we all want a nice place for our kids to grow and learn, regardless of what end you're on, regardless of who you voted for, regardless of what you think is right or wrong. Neutral zone for our kids.
Thank you very much. Ms. Chickering, you have 3 minutes to round out.
Okay, I'm Maureen Chickering. Please vote for me. I just want to say thanks for the questions. I've enjoyed tonight, surprisingly. And I would just like to say, if I'm elected, I will use common sense and work well with the other people on the school committee and the faculty at the school. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much to Mrs. Chickering, Mr. Manzi, and Ms. Publico. We've got an opportunity to cast our ballot on April 12th. April 12th. Oh, my. Wow. Oh, it's been a long week, and it's only Tuesday. Apologies. Next Tuesday, June 12th. Thanks very much. Please remain if you'd like to. We'll take about a 30-second break while I catch my breath and reset and remember what month we're in.
I was going to say, I think it's Monday because I'm working the polls.
I'm a June baby.
Monday, not Tuesday.
Oh, my. Thank you. Boy. So we will go ahead and transition over to our Board of Health candidates. I'm not sure if both candidates are here this evening. I know one is, Ms. Heather Arnold. Please come on up. Those of you who are out in the audience, if you can take conversation out to the hall, that would be much appreciated. And we can go ahead and continue. Is Ms. Chinaki Durgan here this evening? No, she is not. Okay. Well, Ms. Arnold, welcome to the hot seat. We've got, as you know, some prepared questions. We'll get to those prepared questions for you in just a moment. But you've got 3 minutes to go ahead and introduce yourself to the town of Dudley and let them know that about your candidacy for the Board of Health.
Hi, my name is Heather Arnold, and I'm asking for your vote to be on the Board of Health. I feel I would be valuable in this position because of my love for and my involvement in this town, and my passion and experience in healthcare. My husband grew up in Dudley, and I've lived in Dudley since I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, who is now a sophomore. I have 2 daughters in the school systems. I've been involved with various committees throughout the town, various roles such as Girl Scout leader, PTO, Dudley Middle School Council, the Booster Club, the Parents Music Association, and I've been a registered nurse for 24 years. And I would love the opportunity to incorporate my knowledge into this role, however possible. I would like the opportunity to do the required tasks of the Board of Health, but also to introduce some ways for the community to be knowledgeable and aware of the topics, health topics that impact our community. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ms. Arnold. We're just going to roll. We've got several prepared questions for you, and then we'll turn them over to the audience if there are any additional questions. Question number 1, what are the 3 primary goals that you wish to accomplish during your term as member of the Dudley Board of Health, and how do you intend to accomplish them?
I am new to this role, so I will be learning a lot, but I would say I would hope that my goals would be to be fair and balanced as far as dealing with proceedings of the Board of Health. I want to show that there is integrity and be transparent to you guys with whatever I have to do in this role. My second thing that I probably would want to accomplish is just to learn, to be knowledgeable of all the aspects. It is a very learning process for me, but I plan on learning all the rules that we follow with our regulations and being fair and gaining knowledge about all the different aspects of the Board of Health position. And my third thing is that I would want to raise community awareness. Being that I'm an ER nurse, I see what's prevalent in the communities. I see what's important to people. I'd like to be a knowledge-based people where I have expertise. Things such as whatever is important, whether it's COVID, after facts, or if it's ticks, or whatever is important. I want to be able to give you guys knowledge about things, share my knowledge base, or find the answers you need to know about certain things that are impacting your life and your health.
Excellent, thank you. Question number 2, what is the primary role of a member of the Dudley Board of Health, and what background do you bring to that role? You referenced a little bit in there.
I'm still learning, but I know that the Board of Health is in charge of looking at health regulations, food inspections for the eating establishments and the schools. And I know that we're also in charge of dealing with complaints about noise or trash and other violations of housing codes. I know we also have a say as far as approving for additions and for septic wells and septic issues, using the health agent as our background to tell us, kind of lead us in the direction, give us the information we know to make those decisions. We also are in charge of the bike rodeo, and we do Earth Day, and we have done COVID clinics, COVID vaccination and flu vaccination clinics in the past. So those are some of the things that we're responsible for that I would be involved in.
Well, I know that you educated me on the roles of the Dudley Board of Health. I hope the public.
As a nurse, I feel like I have a good experience, background to help with those kind of things.
Excellent. Thank you so much. This question is related to the override. We heard it earlier as posed to our school committee candidates. Some have said that the override question on April 25th and now modified questions for the Monday, June 12th, 2023 ballot are simply scare tactics and that the town has the money. Are they scare tactics, and does the town in fact have the money? If the override fails, will public health services suffer? Please explain.
I don't believe that they're scare tactics. I think they look to see where they can find the money. I think they're doing the best to work with what they have. I don't know all the details about the ins and outs of the budget, but I do feel like they're not trying to use scare tactics. I think that everything gets impacted in the community if the override doesn't pass. I think we're all involved. We are the town services, and the better budget that some departments have, the more you can do. Obviously, if the Board of Health has a better budget, we can use our resources more and educate you guys more and do all of our tasks and regulations that we need to. But with a smaller budget, you always have to work more tighter and find ways to do things. We'll do the best we can, but.
Excellent. Now, thank you very much. Moving forward, are there any public questions for our candidate for Board of Health? Yes, Mr. Frank. I feel like we're back at town meeting.
Jerry Frank, Causeway Road. So at the last town meeting, we appropriated close to $300,000, I think it was, for some water purifiers or something along those lines for some private homes because of the PFAS that's in the water. And then I go home and I read in the paper that Webster just did a debt exclusion for $33 million basically for the same thing for their water supply. So I'm assuming that since water doesn't know town boundaries, that Dudley is probably looking at a bigger problem than the $300,000 problem or the PFAS problem that we're talking about now, that's coming up in the future. This is a health issue. It's a cancer-causing agent, and I'd like to know that how involved will the Board of Health be, along with the water department. I'm sure will be taking care of the public water system in Dudley, but there's a number of a good part of the town that's on private wells, and a lot of kids growing up in Dudley that are drinking this water right now, which we know is cancer causing. So where does the Board of Health, this is a health issue, where's the Board of Health where do you see the Board of Health fit into this problem?
not my level of expertise per se, so I would look for those who have more knowledge about the whole water situation. I mean, however we can be involved and help in this issue, I think would be helpful, but I'm not sure exactly the level of involvement in the Board of Health. So I would defer to those that are more knowledgeable about how we can be instrumental in helping with this problem.
Thank you very much. Additional questions from our audience? Yes. Hi, Jen.
Jennifer Knoyer, Chairman of the Board of Health. May I just make one comment first?
Absolutely.
Just so that correct information is out there regarding the previous comment. The two things are completely different. The town of Webster is dealing with their public water supply, as the town of Dudley already has and put in a treatment facility. The POET systems are being dealt with at private well, and that's being handled differently. So it is two separate things, so just so that the public is aware. My question to you is, so you've understood a lot of what the Board of Health does. So it is a volunteer position. Like you said, we do the bike rodeo, we do Earth Day, a lot of clinics. It's a lot of giving up a lot of your free time. You've said you volunteered with others, and it is only a 3-member board, so we do depend on each other. So my question to you is, are you dependable? Will you show up for events? Because again, when it is only a 3-member board, it's nice to know that anyone who's going to be on the board will be there to support us and support our health agent and the community.
I definitely think I'm dependable. I put my 100% effort into whatever I'm involved in. I'm pretty good at time management. I do a lot of things, but I actually do know how to go. I do make my appointments to things, and I make my time, especially since it's very important to me. I would be at every meeting, and I would be involved heavily because it's important to me. It's my community, and I want everybody here to have the best health and be the most knowledgeable and be involved with whatever we can and help with the regulations where I'm needed. So I would definitely be at everything.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Additional questions from our audience? Seeing none, Ms. Arnold, 3 minutes to summarize your candidacy for the voters for Monday, June 12th.
Thank you everyone for coming tonight. I'm not a public speaker, so thank you for being good with me. I look forward to serving on your Board of Health. If you vote for me on Monday, June 12th, I would like the opportunity to represent you, to help you with health education, to be involved in the regulations, anything that is needed in Board of Health. And I love my town. I love how my daughters are being raised in this town, what they're learning and what they're becoming as being a resident of Dudley. So any way that I can contribute to my community, I want to. This is how I feel I can.
Thank you so much for your time and your words this evening, and you did a great job up there for not being comfortable. Thanks, Ms. Heather Arnold. Moving right along, we will go ahead and invite our candidates for Board of Selectmen up to the table. Mr. Kerry Siganevich, incumbent, and Mr. David Durgan. Welcome. Good to see you this evening.
Nice to meet you.
All right, good evening, and I'm very excited that we have 2 selectmen candidates up here. Last go-round, we had just 1. This evening, our format is the same as it has been for our previous offices that are being run for. We'll have a 3-minute introduction, questions, 2 minutes each. We will go ahead and alternate response first and second. Once we begin, I'll have opportunity for public questions with a 90-second response rate and then a 3-minute summary by each of our candidates this evening. So welcome, Mr. Siganevich. Welcome, Mr. Durgan. Mr. Siganevich, as incumbent, we'll let you open up with a 3-minute max for an introduction to the voters of the town of Dudley in advance of the Monday, June 12th election.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Kerry Siganevich. I have served on the FAA for 6 years, both on the board, vice chairman and chairman. and I've served on the Board of Selectmen for 6 years, both as a board member, well, actually as a board member, clerk, vice chairman, and chairman. And I was chairman during much of 2020 through the pandemic. I was born here in Dudley. I was born actually in Webster, grew up in Dudley, graduated from Shepherd Hill, graduated from Nichols College. I kind of never left. I'm still here. I raised my 3 children here. I was a single father with full custody from the time they were 8, 5, and 2. They all graduated from Shepherd Hill. None of them went to Nichols. I'm currently employed by a Big 4 accounting firm as an investment and tax planning person. And I'm asking for your vote for one more term as member of the Board of Selectmen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Siganevich. Mr. Durgan?
Dave Durgan. I was born and raised in Northbridge, Massachusetts. My wife was born here, and the first time I was in Dudley was 1997. I have a bachelor's degree in business over at Becker. I am not employed. I have no W-2. I'm a stay-at-home dad. Plenty of time to be your selectman full-time. And, there's not really much else.
All right, thank you very much.
I'm on the planning board and board of assessors currently right now.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Durgan, Mr. Siganevich, on your introductions. The first question is going to be for Mr. Durgan. What are the 3 primary goals that you wish to accomplish during your term as member of the board, Dudley Board of Selectmen, and how do you intend to accomplish them? Remember, we've got a 2-minute response on this.
I'd like to bring in, more marijuana licenses. They seem to be bringing us money, $500K a year. This one's going to be bringing us moving forward. So if we can get another license for that, that'd be great. Or maybe some kind of overlay district where we can have these these farmers start to grow cannabis and be more regulated. I'd like to bring in a restaurant district, bring some restaurants, someone to come in here and you're not going to get a lot of fast food joints or anything. No one's going to want to move to Dudley. So if you get some nice restaurants in here and get people in here, that'd be great. And I'd also like to use some of this farmland, get people to use their farmland and bring like something like they have over at West End Creamery, where you can have a corn maze and that type of stuff, bring a lot of families in here. Something that'll bring people in, I guess, and revenue too with the cannabis.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Siganevich, what are the 3 primary goals that you wish to accomplish during your term as member of the Dudley Board of Selectmen, and how do you intend to accomplish them?
Well, if you asked me 3 months ago what those 3 goals were, they'd be different than they are now. I've had a lot of people reach out to me, and I've had a lot of conversations with people. I had one today during my lunch break from work. Now, currently, the 3 things that I would want to accomplish is, first off, to have more engagement with the public. We need more people on the FAA, on the Capital Improvement Board, and also more. We need to do something to get more people involved in person for hearings before the budget next year. I remember when we were doing the hearings just now, not many people showed up until the numbers came out. So I think we need to do a better job of communicating, and that's both ways. That's not just us. We need to listen, not just speak, but we need to listen. 2 other things I'd like to do, that playground out there. That shouldn't be like that. We're in the process of working on a grant to get the playground redone, possibly something else along with it. I know the Dudley Women's Club worked hard to raise money for that, and that's great, and hopefully those matching funds will help us get a grant from somewhere. And the other thing that I've heard is people want to make sure we're spending the money properly. They want an audit to make sure there's no VAT, fraud, what have you. So that's one thing I will look to in my next term immediately, meaning in June if elected. I will start on that. Whether we can get a grant for that or what have you, first we need to figure out how much it costs. But enough people have brought that up. Let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for both answering question number one. Question number two will begin with Mr. Siganevich. What is the primary role of the Board of Selectmen, and what background do you bring to that role? And if you could explain.
Well, the primary role of the Board of Selectmen is to set policy that the town administrator and other department heads that report to us follow. We're the accountable ones. Everything stops with us, whether it's an alcohol permit, some sort of violation, someone wants a street light, National Grid wants to do something, or during citizen comments. And I'll say this again, you're all welcome during citizen comments. I haven't been on a board yet where people weren't allowed to speak, and believe me, we listen. We listen, we want the input. We live here too. We want this place to be great. I also think we represent the town at events. Just this past month, the Memorial Day Parade, there was the dedication for Nancy Vahovic, who dedicated so much of her time to the town. So, multifaceted position. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Durgan, what is the primary role of the Board of Selectmen, and what background do you bring to that role? And please explain.
The primary role would be to be the voice of the people, represent the people of the town. If, say, a resident like me were to email these guys, I would expect to be heard. I would expect to be listened to. And that's pretty much the main role. And I know they're the chief administrative officers in this town, but the big thing is they need to start listening. They need to hear what's going on, and they need to hear people.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to question number three with Mr. Durgan. We've heard a very similar question previously this evening. Some have said that the override question on April 25th in now modified questions on the Monday, June 12th, 2023 ballot are simply scare tactics, and that the town has the money. Are they scare tactics, and does the town in fact have the money? And if the override fails, will residents see any difference?
Yeah, I'd say some of it definitely is scare tactics, but, and do they have the money? Not all of it. They don't have the 2.68 million, but there's certainly money there that's not being accounted for. We're very conservative with the revenues coming in. And that was said at the March 9th meeting. Town accountant said we're conservative with the revenues, so there's obviously some money there. I know we've definitely taken in at least 200 plus in the cannabis revenues. So, but as far as scare tactics, a little bit, definitely.
And if the override fails, what do you think the impact to the residents of the town will be?
Yeah, it'll be, for the town, it won't be so bad, but for the schools, it'll really suck. It'll be really bad for the schools. I hope we can find that hidden money. I hope it's there.
Thank you. Mr. Siganevich, some have said that the override question on the April 25th and now modified questions on the June 12th, 2023 ballot coming up on Monday are simply scare tactics, and that the town has the money. Are they scare tactics, and does the town in fact have the money? If the override fails, will residents see any difference?
No, they are not scare tactics. And that's one reason why I want this audit to be done, and to be done as quickly as possible, to show, just so all of you have confidence that there's no fat, there's no fraud, there's no misappropriation, there's no whatever. You've asked for it. You should have that peace of mind, and I want to give it to you. Scare tactics, no, those are all real. The police chief came up during our meeting Monday, which was yesterday. Apologize, days are getting messed up. I'm sure it's on YouTube by now. If it won't be shortly, you can hear what he had to say. And no scare tactics, nothing fake. And I'm sorry, what was the end of it?
If the override fails, will residents see any difference?
You'll see the difference that has been stated. You'll see the difference. I can't speak for the schools because the schools report to the school committee. I trust what they have to say, but I know we're going to lose people. We're going to lose services. There was nothing misrepresented that was shared with the public. Nothing.
Thank you very much. At this time, we've finished up our prepared questions. We've got a bit of time ahead that's open for questions from the audience. Are there any audience members? Yes, we'll start to the right, and then we'll come over here to my left. Yep. Mr. Zukowski.
Scott Zukowski, 8 Catherine Street. As getting older, I have a hard time using it, but social media is oftentimes can be used for passing information. It can also be used as a bludgeon. What do you see is the role of the use of social media in local town government?
Great. Use of social media in the role of town government. Just before we let the candidates know which is responding, reminder, we've got a 90-second response at max on these. We'll go ahead and begin with Mr. Siganevich. The role of social media in this forum.
I think the town has a duty to communicate with the public through social media things that are important. If a road will be closed, when the Halloween event is, anything of that nature, we should be communicating. When there's meetings, board meetings of different sorts, I also think that there should be separate social media where a town forum, people want to get together like they did many years ago to discuss things without us being involved. Great, have at it. But as far as the town goes, I think we should maintain our own social media, and it should be kind of one way where here are things that are going on, but there should be an option if someone has a question, you can direct message us. I also think with the rise in fake accounts that in dealing with the town, just like here, someone who shows up to a selectmen's meeting, any meeting, a town meeting, you have to say your name and you have to say your address. Because I don't represent anyone from another community. I don't represent anyone from Auburn. I represent you. So it's some kind of mechanism to make sure it's someone from Dudley that I'm listening to. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Durgan, social media and its role with the Board of Selectmen.
Well, after this weekend, I'd have to agree with Kerry about the fake whatever they're.
Accounts.
Accounts, thank you. The fake accounts. There's no need for that. I'm a big social media guy. I use my real name. Don't hide behind anything. But I think the big thing about social media that we learned this year is that it's very good to get the word out about an override, because 3,000 people showed up because of all this social media. It was posted everywhere. Everyone knew about it. Everyone knew. So it all came out. That's it.
Thank you. Additional thought? Or you good? Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Thank you very much. Any additional questions? Let's come over to our left with Mr. Frank.
So I'd like to come back to the question that I asked some of the other people before about reaching the 2030 roadmap that the state has and lowering our carbon footprint. So aside from things, some big projects that, require grants. And so, in other words, I don't want to hear the answer of just, depending on what grants we get. What can you do through policy change to help address the carbon footprint of the town of Dudley towards reaching that goal?
All right, so the question is related to that 2030 roadmap to get down to a zero emissions carbon policy in the town of Dudley. Mr. Durgan.
Yeah, I would, I don't know if it's possible to put solar panels on the middle school roof. When they do that, that'd be a pretty good plan. But as far as I know, we got this Amoresco plan coming up with the Amoresco solar farm. They're going to be, from what I heard, they're going to be providing electricity for all the schools and all the municipal buildings. But I don't know, things change on the daily over here. So, but as far as emission control, I know in the planning board we tried to bring up one of those EV charging stations and all that. But failed at town meeting, so there's not really much we could do to change policy, to change the power. I don't know.
All right, thank you, Mr. Siganovich. Related to the 2030 roadmap to zero carbon emissions and the role of town government at addressing policy.
Zero carbon emissions. I think about how much oil, gas, what have you, to heat the schools, to heat this place, to the fuel that goes into fire trucks, to police cars. How do we offset that? How do we offset that? And what is the cost to offset that? Don't know. And I know you said not about grants, not about cost, but unfortunately, that's a big thing. What do things cost? Of course, it'd be great to have zero emissions. Of course, it'd be great. The air would be cleaner. Things would be better. How do we go about it? I think the best thing we could do, because I'm not really educated on what that would entail, what the best ways are to do that. I think if we were going to go that route, I think the best thing the Board of Selectmen could do would be to ask for volunteers to start a committee. I'm sure you have a lot of information on this. We could use that, and I'm sure there are other people in this town that do as well. Rely on the subject matter experts, take that information and see what we can do. Beyond see what we could do. We could definitely make roads, make a path to it. Could we reach it? I don't know, but I bet we could get close if we tried.
Thank you very much.
Follow up on that?
I'm sorry?
Can I do a follow-up on that?
Yes, as long as it's to both candidates.
Yeah, so, I'm talking about policies that are easy to implement. For example, right now in this building, we have the heat on. It's the middle, we're in June and the heat is on, blowing in this room right now, and it's extremely warm.
It is.
So that's something that's a policy that the selectmen could enact, for example. We also have probably the biggest public transportation system in Dudley is our school buses, and yet we have the biggest private parking lot is also the schools. So those are things that I think are just policy issues that don't require money or grants to change, but just policies. And I think they don't bring us to net zero, but they can bring us closer to that goal or work towards it. And so I think your idea of setting up a committee to look at some of these small issues would be really good. Thank you very much.
So related to the follow-up, are there any additional thoughts from you, Mr. Durgan?
Yeah, John Root had just turned up the heat earlier before, so maybe he could have kept it at where it was.
All right, so related to the comment with the heat, Mr. Siganovich?
This is the start of a conversation. This is what I'm talking about. This is one of the three things I want more of, conversation. That's how these things happen. I'm not really educated on zero carbon footprint. You want to talk about how an irrevocable trust, how the basis is updated? I can, let's go. But that's not me. And just from this conversation now, we kind of both agree. We need a subcommittee to study it and see. And like you said, the school, the buses, the parking lot. And we could keep going. And if you want to keep going, I'm more than happy to speak with you further on it.
All right, thank you very much. Additional questions from our audience? Yes, we'll go over here to the left, then we'll jump back to the right and then to the back.
Hello again, it's Colin Humphreys, Lakeside Drive. As I'm sure we're all aware at this point, our town is currently facing looming financial shortfalls that threaten our services and our schools. Regardless of how the vote shakes out on Monday, how would you propose we ensure long-term financial stability in the town of Dudley so that we don't end up in this situation again?
So the question's for Mr. Siganovich to start. Long-term financial stability plan.
Long-term financial stability plan. It's
in 90 seconds.
In 90 seconds.
So we're clear.
Going to sound like an auctioneer if I get everything out. It's a matter of money coming in and money going out. You need to control both. We need more money to come in and we need less to go out. It's difficult. We don't border 395. We don't border Route 20. Amazon's not coming here. We're not a transportation hub. We need to get creative, and we have been creative to this point. We need to get more creative. I don't know if the answer is grants. I don't know if the answer is I don't know what the answer is, but I do think some of you have the answers, and I want input. We could set up another subcommittee. Because one thing I learned, all three of my children played sports, and it's amazing who lives in this town. How many smart, well-educated, well-employed people live in this town and just quietly exist. We need to pull a few of those out of the tall grass to come out and help out, because this is their town too. But that's a complicated answer with, yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Siganevich. Long-term financial stability plan, Mr. Durgan.
Yeah, I'd like to see bringing more companies into town. That'll be, try to get some pilot programs. Also, I wouldn't mind seeing the split tax rate and charge the industrial entities that we have right now a little bit more. Get enough out of them to pay for someone's salary. I don't know. Yeah, like I said earlier, I'd like to see some more cannabis in here, because they're going to be bringing us money. And they're cleaning up our streets, too. At least the greatest hits is. I don't know if the next guy will. But.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think I said I was going to go over to my right, out at the back corner, yes. No, it's Miss Smith. Town clerk. We work closely together on stage.
Hi, Lori Smith, Pierpont Road. A question to each of you. If either of you are on other committees or boards and you're successful in your run for selectman or re-election for selectman, how effective would you feel you would be as selectman if you had to abstain from voting on those other boards or committees issues that might come before you?
So, thank you for the question, Mr. Durgan. Involvement in other town boards and effectiveness with the Board of Selectmen, should you be successful if you had to abstain?
Well, first of all, I thought I would have to quit the other two boards if I won selectman seat. Is that not correct? Anybody?
No, that's not correct.
Oh. Yeah, I would be able to abstain. I have no problem with that. Planning board, Board of Assessors. Got no problem abstaining from anything.
Mr. Siganevich, same question related to multiple board involvement and the need to balance role on the Board of Selectmen, potentially needing to abstain, and effectiveness.
Being a member of the Board of Selectmen is my only position within the town of Dudley. I would not have to abstain from anything. Believe me, just that one position keeps me busy enough. I don't need any more. I don't think anyone could do any more, but that's just me thinking out loud. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think we're coming back here to Miss, left side, Miss Canoyer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Canoyer, Chairman, Board of Health, West Dudley Road. So over the past 3 years, the Board of Health and the Board of Selectmen worked extremely close during COVID, and I think we realized some of our shortcomings with the Board of Health and how important the Board of Health is. Despite the budget, I understand but just moving forward as the Board of Selectmen, how would you continue to help support the Board of Health and make us even better and stronger?
So, Mr. Siganevich, how do you help support the Board of Health as a member of the Board of Selectmen and make them stronger and better?
How do we support the Board of Health? Well, we have worked closely with them. We would continue to work closely with them. Of course, we'd approve the bike rodeo. That's an excellent event. Between that, Earth Day, the things you were doing during COVID, they were all wonderful. I know you need a health agent. We need to work on that, whether that would be a direct hire just for us or for some sort of arrangement with other communities like we have with the Veteran Services Organization. And it comes back to something I've said a few times tonight. Communication, conversations. We need to listen. We need to listen to you, and we need to have a conversation. I think I've done an excellent job of that during my term, both of my terms on the board, especially during 2020. I'd like to continue that.
Thank you, Mr. Durgan. And the relationship between the Board of Health and the Board of Selectmen and providing necessary resources and supports.
I definitely think you guys need a full-time health agent or whatever Tom Purcell was. If he was part-time, you need someone like him, Dudley only, that only works in Dudley. And an engineer would be nice. Of course, every board should work together, not just the Board of Health. Selectmen should be working with the Water Board, Planning Board, every board.
Okay. Thank you very much. Additional questions? We'll go center aisle, Mr. Marcy.
Hi, guys. Like I said to the school committee candidates, thank you guys both for being here. It's always difficult to put your name out in front of your peers, so I appreciate you both being here. One of the things that the current themes that we've heard tonight and over the past several months is that we have a fiscal crisis upon us. And I want to know from each of you, there's the very real possibility that an override fails, a super meeting happens, school takes money, and everybody loses. Are you guys going to be ready to do one or two things? And I want you guys to be very specific. That could put the schools into receivership. Do you support that? Do you also support cutting public safety in those circumstances? Tell me if you would. I want yes or no, and then why, and then what will you do to prevent it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Mr. Durgan, this is related to failed override and the need for a special district-wide meeting and funding that could potentially put the schools into receivership and cut public safety. What are we going to do about it, and are you okay with those circumstances?
I would say schools are definitely number one priority. Get the money to them as quick as you can, whatever you got. I know there's money, so give them whatever you got, meet them halfway, but for them to put it into, what is it called, censorship?
Receivership,
Receivership.
Yes.
I don't think we should ever let that happen. I don't see that as being a real possibility either, but and the other part, public safety, yeah, you gotta keep the fire and the police at least fully funded, and highway in the wintertime at least fully funded. So I would start with those number one priorities, the schools, and then fire, police, and highway. Make sure they're funded as best as they can. If it means losing one person or two people, yeah, it's tough times. That's what happens.
Thank you. Mr. Siganovich, same question.
May I have a summary of the question?
Yes. It's related to the potential for a failed override on the 12th and a potential district-wide, it's been referred to as a special town meeting that would combine voters from Dudley and Charlton. Failing there could potentially put the schools into receivership or result in significant cuts to public safety. Are you in support of those outcomes, and where do you stand?
No, I'm not in support of receivership or cutting public safety. And these are maybe statements. Maybe the override doesn't pass. Maybe there's a special town meeting between the two towns, and maybe that passes, and maybe there's receivership. I'm not a school professional, and I don't know much about receivership, but what I do know is the state basically does what they're going to do, and they hand us the bill. I don't want that. I unlike some other members of the Board of Selectmen, I've never needed paramedic or fire or any of that stuff, but I know enough to know that we need that. There was a survey done in years prior about, I know John Breyer was a part of it, where people said what they liked about Dudley, and it was the good schools, the low taxes, and the safe community. I don't want to lose any of it, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it if we have to.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions from our audience? Yes.
Maureen Morrissey, Causeway Road, Dudley. So I've worked in the district, in the school district, for 25 years. I've lived in town 38 years. Our town continuously prides ourselves on doing so much for so little. We need to stop that message and start realizing our taxes do need to go up. If we want the services that we love and have gotten used to, we need to kind of pay up. How do you see, and another thing, how do we get our constituents, our people out here to vote? We had 28% of our people voting on a huge issue last time, 28%. How do we get people out here to vote? How do you see a select person doing something like that?
So the question, we tend to do a lot with little. There are questions about the high stakes related to the budget and providing resources and supports. How do we turn out the vote? Mr. Siganovich?
Well, I agree with you on we've done so much with so little. The way our town meeting form of government works is you, the voters, need to approve the budget. You, the voters, need to approve and override more money. You all get to decide what kind of town we have. No selectman can sit up here and bang a gavel and say what the tax rate's going to be.
No, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, how are you going to get that?
How can the Board of Selectmen address
How do you see
the
getting
voter turnout?
people to come and start voting?
Well, short of showing up at their house with the bus, putting them in the bus and bringing them here, which, no, we can't do that. We can use social media, as I had said before, the one way, letting people know when the date is, and I think we've done a good job of that with this June 12th coming up. We can encourage people as much as we want. When I won this seat 6 years ago, I got about 400 votes, and the challenger was about 200 votes. That was 600 people came up to vote for one of the leaders of the community.
Right.
And this override brought many more people, and I'm sure there'll be many more people here. I don't know how to make more people come. I ask and I plead for people to come during citizen comments. My email's on the town website. Someone wants to reach out, I'll answer. I'll talk with anybody. I'll have a conversation with anybody. But I don't know, sort of making sure that the information is out there, how else we can get people to come.
Thank you.
I don't know, and I'm open to ideas, open to it.
Thanks, Mr. Siganovich. Mr. Durgan, how can the Board of Selectmen work to turn out the vote?
Well, as Mr. Marcy calls me, I'm a perennial candidate, so I know that there are maybe 1,000 people that come out and vote. I don't know. So I was pretty surprised that 3,000 people showed up. So it looks like the best way to make them come out and vote is to have a 33% override. But that's not the best way to fix the problem. It needs to be smaller increments, or people are just going to come out to vote no.
All right, thank you. Additional questions from our audience? Mr. Sullivan and
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Stephen Sullivan, Cardinal Drive, member of the Board of Selectmen. I just want to clarify a couple of things said tonight, then ask a question. On the question of cannabis revenue, we're restricted to 2 dispensaries in town by state law. We've already issued both licenses. When it comes to growing cannabis, cannabis is allowed in town, restricted to certain areas of town based on acreage and the location of that parcel. I don't claim to speak for the water department, but one of the biggest issues is infrastructure in town. And to put a district in somewhere, I gladly would put a district in, but there's not the infrastructure to support it. My question to both candidates would be, as a selectman, we are the ones responsible to present the budget to town meeting. All elected boards, there's one other one also, Mr. Moderator, sorry, a split tax rate. That is not under the purview of the Board of Selectmen. That is under the purview of the Board of Assessors, who makes a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. And since I've been on the Board of Selectmen for 20 years, they've never advocated for a split tax rate. So if the current Board of Assessors or members of the board want a split tax rate, they have to bring it forward to the board at the tax classification hearing every year, that the selectmen act upon the assessor's recommendation. So my question to the two candidates, budget season. Budget season is critical, even when it's not a fiscal crisis like this. That means you need to show up, have your ducks in a row, have your comments, have your figures. Other board members are always invited to the budget. I would ask Mr. Durgan and Mr. Siganovich, I'm not sure which order, can you explain to the townspeople how you participated personally in the budget process since you've been elected official? Thank you.
The question is related to participation in the budget process as an elected official or town official. Mr. Durgan.
Well, I absolutely wasn't here for any of the budget meetings because I was on the Board of Assessors and it didn't really matter to me. But as someone that has access to the DOR website, I saw that we were using the wrong levy limit for fiscal year 24, or fiscal year 23, I guess. And that levy limit's right there on the website. You can just pull it right off. You don't have to do any miscalculation. And this current override, they're using $26,000 more. So I kind of did help, I guess, a little bit with $26,000.
Thank you, Mr. Siganovich. Related to involvement with the budget preparations and role of elected board.
Mr. Moderator, is that just this year, or is that in prior years as well?
I think I'm going to interpret it to say just overall involvement and awareness. What would it be? What could it be? What has it been?
For the past 12 years, I've been involved with the budget. From when I started on the FAA, the first 6 years and the last 6 years as a selectman. I've been at every hearing. I've been a part of the budget. I've voted on the budget. I voted on the budget at town meeting with all of you. I showed up. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Landry. And as just a point of information for the audience, we are coming up with about 4 minutes remaining on our public forum time, our public question time.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Candidates, good evening. My question is, I would like to hear what your plan is to keep the town level service if the override fails.
So the question, what's the plan to keep the town level serviced if the override fails? Mr. Siganovich.
Great question, Mr. Landry. My plan is to work with the other members of the Board of Selectmen in an open hearing meeting so that you all can come, comment, listen. I don't want to do this behind a closed door or what have you. This should be an open process that's open for input. We'll have to look long and hard at what's coming in and what's going out and make things priorities that need to be priorities. Possibly we won't have to do that, possibly we will. But I think it should be an open process with room for input from you. This is your town. We're just your representatives, that's all we are. This is your town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Siganovich. Mr. Durgan, your plan to keep the town level serviced if the override fails.
If the override fails and all this information on the town website is correct, then it's impossible to keep it level serviced. You'll lose some people for sure. Probably lose a lot of services. But it is literally impossible if all this information is correct and there's no money on the table. I don't know, you can't just make money.
Thank you. Additional questions, one final question. We'll go to Ms. Smith.
Laurie Smith, Pierpont Road. Being on the Board of Selectmen is an important position. Your board works with all of the other different boards and committees in town. It's important to maintain a respectful dialogue with one another. And since you're both on a committee or a board, can you detail a time when you had to work with another board or committee where you were on opposite sides, and how did you come together to work on a resolution that would be for the best interest of the town?
Thank you very much. Mr. Durgan, question to you.
Kind of new. I've only been here for a year. I haven't really had that experience yet, except for maybe with the water board and trying to get us to fund the, Scott, what's that called? For the DMA?
Oh, peer review.
Peer review, yeah, trying to get us to fund the peer review. So that's the only thing, and I mean, I'm on board with that, so I was in favor of it too. It's probably still gonna happen, I think, I don't know.
Mr. Siganevich, a time when you were on the opposing side on a town board and worked to get a resolution.
Oh, there have been times on my, times during my, that I've been on the Board of Selectmen. I've argued with members of the Board of Selectmen in executive session, here in open session. We've had disagreements, some pretty heated disagreements, but we compromise. That's how solutions happen. Sometimes you can't get what you want. Sometimes you can only get what you can get. And I think the answer to a lot of problems is how we solve those. Two-way conversation and compromise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the members of the public who did pose some questions this evening for our selectmen candidates. At this time, we'll move into our closing remarks. We've got a 3-minute limit on our closing remarks. We can use it all or not. Mr. Durgan, you may kick us off.
Yep, so one thing that I'm not is obviously a high school or a buddy of John Ruda, so I'll be bringing individuality to this board with my own mind, and I won't be just giving him 4 stars for everything. I think this budget kind of showed that he's not listening and he's not hearing the people. And I hope this override passes for the school's sake and obviously the town's sake too, but I'm worried about that.
All right.
Over.
Thank you. Mr. Siganevich, your time begins now.
Yes, as far as me being a buddy of John Ruda, I'll take that up first. Yeah, graduated from high school together. Yeah. I was one of the votes that hired him as town administrator. Yeah. I stand by this, that he was the best qualified candidate that applied. I stand by that. One thing, whether I continue to be your selectman or not, I can always go home from a meeting, look in the mirror, and like the guy that's staring back at me. I've never in my time here, I've never taken a penny for campaign contributions. Everyone has gotten a fair shake. Everyone. I don't care if you're a cornerstone of the community or if you moved here a week ago. Don't care. My vote, I get 1 vote. You get 1 vote. I don't get like 100 vote super vote for anything. I stand by anything that I've done, everything that I've done, and if any of you have a question about any vote that I've ever made, you're more than welcome to email me, come to a selectmen's meeting. Like I've said 100 times today, conversation. More than happy to have one with anyone. Back to the closing statement. I don't have anything prepared for any of this. I came with a blank sheet of paper because I want everything that I'm saying to come from here and here. I show up. I've been here. I show up to meetings. I show up to town meetings. I show up to anything. You invite me to an opening of a letter, I'll show up. That's what I do. And like I said, I'm going to reiterate this. I don't care who you are. You get the same treatment as anyone else. And I'm asking you. I think that's what we all want from our politicians. I hate that word. I'm not a politician. I'm a leader. I'm not a politician. So I ask you for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you both Mr. Siganevich and Mr. Durgan for your time and presentation this evening. We've got a lot to digest before Monday, June 12th. I'd like to go ahead and ask you back to the gallery before we go ahead and close. So thanks for your time up front.
To the gallery?
Yeah, that gallery.
I hear gallery and I think of like a shooting gallery. I'm not.
Head on back to the audience, will you? Thanks. The reason I'm asking them to head back, are there any other candidates who are representing any other offices, either write-in or interested in getting your name out there for the election on June 12th? Yes?
My name is Richard Clark.
Please come on up to the microphone so we can hear you at home.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Richard Clark. I am presently on the Planning Board, the Library Board of Trustees, and the Open Space and Recreation Committee. My name will be on the ballot as a candidate for a position, again, on the Planning Board, and I would appreciate your support. And also, while I'm up here, a cheap commercial announcement. The Library Board of Trustees has 2 openings, and obviously there are a number of people who are interested in what happens in the community. If you have a concern with regards to the library and would like to be involved with the library, there are openings on the ballot. You could start a write-in campaign. You could start it right here, right now, if you would. If not, then please give us a thought as we reconvene for our organization. We're going to be 2 members down. If you submit a letter of interest, we can bring that forward before the selectmen and hopefully get you added to the Board of Trustees. Again, apologize for the chief commercial announcement.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Clark. I appreciate you coming up and for your running on the planning board. If folks at home lost audio there when Mr. Clark was pandering to the audience and soliciting library trustees, there are a couple of openings. Please submit a letter of interest to the Board of Selectmen if you're interested in the Library Board of Trustees, and we'd be happy to consider your participation. Is there anyone else? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and conclude this evening. Reminder, the election is Monday, June 12th. A lot at stake, a lot of great information from our candidates this evening, a lot to digest. Thanks very much. Chris Starcheski, Town Moderator.